Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review the 1984 thriller sci-fi horror film, Firestarter. In one place, I even saw listed as an action film. What is it? Maybe we
That's so many genres.
I think it kind of covers all of them.
It is a little bit
It
of all
kind
of
of
them.
does.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because, it's based on Stephen King's 1980 novel of the same name. And I was looking at a little interview of his from when they were making the movie. And he was like, I don't like to, pick a genre. I just call them stories, So
Nice.
yeah, it's interesting.
I like that.
So, let's get into it. But before we do, let's really, as a community, take a minute and subscribe. Bloop. Subscribe.
Oh, was that them subscribing?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Bloop.
Beep, boop.
You must have an update. I think.
I don't think everyone else. It maybe sounds like a bell. I don't know.
We now have another little person on the podcast today. Clearly the cutest member of the Wright Perspective podcast team.
Our guest star.
It's our guest star. It's my little 6.5-month-old daughter, Skylar.
Listen, the microphone on that headphone.
I know Brittany really loves Skylar because she let that slide. So
what?
You calling Skylar the cutest on the it's just she let that slide. There's a lot of love.
In 2023, I've worked on my vanity. Now 2024, I don't know. We'll see in a few weeks.
Well, she's gonna sit with us for a little while. Let's see what happens here.
We're playing jazz.
Normally she just likes to listen to the podcast on the back end and then give us feedback.
Yeah, and the last time she typed a comment, I've been meaning to ask her because it was just a series of letters.
Yeah,
I didn't know what was happening. It was a series of letters.
She does that. She likes to be mysterious.
Okay.
She likes to be mysterious.
Cryptic. I like it.
So what we were talking about before Skylar asked to join us was about the fact that we were talking about the genre and how this movie is so. The movie is so many genres, and it's hard to kind of box it in. And Stephen King didn't want to box it in. He said, I just write stories,
Yeah.
So anyway,
and he writes very scary stories. It's like we need a rom-com, Steve.
Do y'all know Stephen King stuff though? Like, do y'all know Stephen King's books and movies?
Stephen King is one of those that is more prevalent than I think I realized. Because it's like a lot of times you'll watch something or see something and it'll be like, oh, this is based on a Stephen King. And even when it's not, sometimes it was inspired by or the person will say, I was a Stephen King fan, so I think he has we all know who Stephen King is, but I'm just saying, I think his impact is probably bigger than
absolutely. I'm going to read the first two sentences of his Wikipedia. Okay. Stephen Edwin King is an American author of horror, supernatural, fiction, suspense, crime, science fiction, and fantasy novels. Called the King of Horror, his books have sold more than 350 million copies as of 2006, and many have been adapted into films, television series, miniseries, and comic books.
That's amazing.
And then I could go on. It's like
because I think one of the movies I saw, I think it's and I'm looking it up because I want to say it right. The Mist. I think that it was based off of. Yeah. I think it was based off of one of his books, The Mist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what I appreciate about Stephen King is that he doesn't just, and to all of the people who write the scripts and the directors, because I've never read one of his books. So I'm like, if the movies is interesting, the book probably has you up at night with all the lights on.
It does.
And so I was thinking to myself, just how he makes you think more than, like, you're being scared, but you're also thinking, like, could this really be happening right now? So I appreciate that. And so I remember The Mist being one of my favorite movies that have been adapted by like from one of his books. So and when I used to work in a library, his section, I used to be a page, his section was one of the larger sections. Putting those books together was easy to find the Stephen King section.
right.
Just so many books.
Yeah, so, and also I feel like airports are all about Stephen King. Like you go to any of the airport little bookstores, it's like Stephen King Central. They just have it all. It sells. It must sell.
It's great.
People must love it.
Scare yourself before you get on a plane. Scare the bejesus out of myself before I get on the plane.
It's a good strategy. Well, so Firestarter, and it's so funny. He also has a reputation for participating in the creation of the movies and then not liking the movies. So I saw that in 2 different places where they were like, he never likes any of his movies, but he helps make them. So like, for example, in the movie we're going to discuss today, Firestarter, it was his idea for the little girl character's hair to flow in like the wind whenever she was about to start a fire, but then he didn't like it. But it was his idea.
Well, let me let you know something, Stephen King. If that was your idea, it knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it did a good job.
Because when that girl's, because when her hair start flying, it's on.
It's on. Right?
And we know.
On that day.
You see that little bead of sweat? Ooh. It's a wrap. It starts flying. I said, listen, there was no wind in that room. Teeth.
Yeah.
and because in my mind, I have a sequel for this movie that I've had for like 20 years.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear about
it. It involves Charlie she's grown up now. And now she's an arsonist. But she's she's a very specialized arsonist. Like at this point she has just mastered her powers, and what makes her so great is because she can commit the most destruction without leaving casualties. And I don't really know where the movie would go with that after that. But the point I'm trying to say is that I've always thought there would be this big, huge story that happened, but she's usually has her hair tied back for the whole movie. So like the whole movie, they'll talk about it, the hair is just in a bun or something like that. But after the whole arc happened and we're at the end, somehow her hair just ended up out. And when she was about to do that last thing, that hair just starts blowing. I'm just telling you right now, the theater would go crazy.
Yes,
I'm letting you know right now.
Yes.
You heard that on the Wright Perspective. Don't you dare.
Okay.
Try to go make that movie. Y'all always be trying to steal our ideas. I already seen it happen once.
Well, bro, what you came up with actually sounds a little bit more interesting than what they actually did do a follow-up. Did y'all know about this?
It's a remake.
Is that one? I
thought they did both. They did both.
Oh, I didn't know. I did not know they did a follow-up.
Okay, so first let me get the little blurb on Firestarter really quickly.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Firestarter, again, based on a Stephen King 1980 novel of the same name. It earned $17 million on a budget of $15 million. It didn't really do that well.
It didn't do that well.
It was directed by
Mark give me
L.
$15 million, but that's fine.
Well, that's really, it's a $2 million, I'll take it.
Give me them $2 million.
But it was directed by Mark Lester, stars David Keith, Drew Barrymore, Martin Sheen, and George C. Scott. Other notable members of the cast include Freddie Jones, Heather Locklear, Art Carney, Louise Fletcher, and Moses Gunn. And frankly, y'all, when you start to look at the bios of these cast members, I mean, these are some award-winning folks here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so for some, the cast alone would be enough to consider this movie a classic. But today we will determine whether it is a classic from the right perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But we got to start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hi, I'm Brittany Wright, and I'm the youngest.
And I'm Skylar Jorthling, and I'm actually the youngest. I've only been alive.
I think the newest would be the best. I'm the newest.
Oh my gosh. So y'all, we were just talking about Aubrey's awesome idea for how to continue this story. So there was actually there was a mini-series follow-up to the film. It was 2 episodes on the Sci-Fi channel, okay? And it was called Firestarter Rekindled. And she was grown up in those. And so, bro, it was what you were talking about. It was the continuation. And then they also, that was in 2002. And then they also did a remake feature film, which was released on May 13th, 2022.
Yeah, I can't even get myself to watch it.
I started watching the remake last night. And I got about 15 minutes in. You know, it stars Zac Efron. And I was like,
as what?
He's the dad. And I was just like, oh,
this is very interesting.
My High School Musical guy. I don't know. I'm struggling. I love the way you sing and dance. I don't know about you in this part. Not that he was doing a bad job, but it was just like, what's happening? They didn't start in the action. You know, they were starting like at the house with the little girl like struggling with her identity. And then she goes to school and accidentally blows up a bathroom. And that's how the people get on the radar. And it's like,
well, you know I think because I'm just sitting here thinking in my mind, I'm like, they can't possibly have this situation where it's like, we're chasing them. Because I'm like, they clearly have cell phones and we can find you wherever we want.
It's funny you should say that, because her identity at school is Amish. And because they're pretending like they're Amish, because they can't have any technology, because they will get found. So they don't have computers, they don't have cell phones as a family, even though it's like modern day, because they will get tracked.
Wow.
It's their way to stay off the grid, but give her some normalcy so she gets to go to school. But of course, all the kids are now making fun of her because they think she's Amish.
Right.
And they're like, oh, weirdo, you don't have to. I mean, the teacher's like, look this stuff up when you all get home. And she's like, I don't have a computer. And the kids are like, you're so weird. You don't have a computer.
I'm just saying, I've always wanted a Firestarter remake. Yeah. And I was so disappointed because the thing is, I'm talking about shot for shot.
Yeah.
Like I just would like to have seen what they could do with the technology. Like because they did, I think the movie, this podcast is going to be about finding out what Genia and Brittany think about Firestarter. I'm just let y'all know right now. So I'm just saying, I think it still stands up. You know what I'm saying? It like when you think about, this movie was made in 1984.
Yeah, like and the technology. It's like that's what I'm saying. They didn't have CGI, so those were actual fireballs, y'all. They were creating. Those were stunt.
It looks like it
on fire.
That's what I'm saying.
They were actually doing those explosions. They literally had zero CGI.
And it's still that kind of gives it a more. There's something about that. You know what I mean? That just makes it still interesting to watch. And it's funny because I don't even know if I ever heard of
CGI might ruin it.
Well, I think it would depend.
It
would depend on how it was done, and it would depend on which shots should be practical, which shots should be, and I don't even know if I heard of the follow up. I probably will watch it, but like for me, if it's not Drew Barrymore, I think it should be Drew Barrymore. Like I would like to see Drew Barrymore like right now, like as a mom, however, because it would be even more interesting if she was just unassuming. Yeah, but it would just be like, I always thought the dopest opening scene would be like she's just walking, walking in her apartment or house. You don't see her, and like she's sipping tea, and it's just hot. And then like she walks by the fireplace and it just, she's just so in control of how she does it now. But it's like somebody you wouldn't even assume, so I think it would even play well if it was, I think it should still be Drew Barrymore. Just like there was this episode.
Like a Jamie Lee Curtis situation in Jason and Halloween, just kind of how her house is a fortress.
Yeah, but that was not yes, but no, that was the way they did it. It was just But anyway, but yes, but not. It was more like there's this episode of the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone, and Twilight Zone has many iterations. But there was this one episode where there was a little boy in this town, and he had the whole town held hostage because he could make you disappear. So like the
anytime
whole...
he had a tantrum.
Oh, you saw it?
Oh yeah, I've seen both.
Oh, we already talked about it then.
I don't know. I think James might have showed it to me. Anyway,
I don't know. We might have, it feels like we talked about it.
Keep going.
But anyway, they had a sequel like 20 years later, and it was still him.
They brought the same actor.
Yeah, it was the same actor. And I think that's dope. Just like, have you ever seen The Professional?
No.
Yes, with the he has a little girl with him, and he's like a murderer.
Yes, he's a hitman. That's another one. I always thought, first of all, that's a phenomenal movie. It'd be interesting for us to maybe like put that on there.
That's a good. Have you seen that one, sis? The Professional?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. But I'm saying it would be dope to see her, but only if it was Natalie Portman. That's the only way I would want to see it.
Yes.
Because I have several ideas for that movie as well. But I'm just saying, yeah.
Let me tell you all, and again, I didn't watch the miniseries. It was a 2-episode miniseries, and it's on Amazon because I'm gonna watch it. I just didn't have time to look at it. So the remake and the 2 series from the sci-fi, the 2 episode from the Sci-Fi Channel, they're both on Amazon. But so the premise for the follow-on that was on the Sci-Fi Channel is that it turns out that John Rainbird not dead. He just got burned. So he's still alive, and he's still obsessed with Charlie. And he puts together a fake class action lawsuit, and he hires someone to go and take like pretend lawsuit settlements to all of the remaining people who are alive that know about Lot 6. And it is his way to find Charlie. And he finds her through that fake settlement of a class action lawsuit against the shop. And of course, he's trying to kill her, you know. Okay. And, you know, and the other thing that he's done is that he has continued working on the experiments. So that's where you lost me. They make him somehow like, I don't know, based on the write-up, it's like he's continued the Lot 6 experiment. Wow. And there was nothing I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out. We saw that would make him want to do that, but
yeah, because he was talking about dying. He wanted to, like, he was waiting for death.
Yeah, and here's part of the blurb. Rainbird, he ends up essentially activating a bunch of children with it, and he's using the children to rob a bank, you know, because he's like testing out the ability to use them for warfare. You know, and then Charlie has to go and kind of like try to reprogram the children, let them know, no, he's using you for evil. That kind of thing.
That doesn't sound like a bad premise.
Those only 2 episodes. I hope the episodes are 1 hour a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah,
together they're 168 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. But that's not what we're here to talk about
168 today. Minutes. Yeah, it was March of 2002. I think it's worth a look.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
I never heard.
I wish we had done it before this, you know.
No.
Discussion.
It's too much.
I like that.
You want us to watch a million things at once? It's too much.
But whatever that miniseries is, it would have been better with me and Drew Barrymore. That's all. Yeah, I
agree. It's such a good point when it's the same actress.
And it would just be so dope. Like, I don't know how old she is now or whatever, but like however old she is, whatever, like, just, it would just be interesting to just see that would be like a non-traditional, you know, like action hero type situation, you know that.
Okay, well, Drew Barrymore, you heard it here on the Wright Perspective. We would like for you to do a follow-on, okay?
And bring me in so I can write it. We'll make it happen.
It will be, but that means we have to write it, then bring it to her.
Okay.
That's it.
Let's do it. Because let me just tell y'all, she still loves Firestarter. Because when the remake came out, she brought the little girl that was going to be playing Charlie onto the show, onto her talk show and everything. And it was really emotional for her. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my gosh, this part that was her 3rd movie. of all time. And she's had a bajillion movies, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it was her third movie ever. It was her first time kind of like carrying the whole movie. And then she meets the next little girl that's going to be playing the character. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You did.
I love
and
that.
That's
a lot of pressure.
And they were both emotional. They were crying like, oh, you know. So it was cute.
But she did that movie. And like in watching her as a little kid, you're like, okay, she's gonna be something. You know, like you can tell. Anyway. So
and do you all know about her family's legacy, the Barrymore family? No. Okay. Everyone in the world, after you listen to this podcast, go and Google the Barrymore family. And you will see that she has they're actors, they're generations and generations of actors, all the way back to before they came to the United States as colonists. Like it's like
so we got some nature and nurture going on there. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense.
You know, so her parents were you know what I mean? Like she comes to it honestly, quite honestly.
I love that. She's really good.
It's really quite a legacy. They're like affiliated with Broadway and everything.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Huge. So, well, let's pick a voting symbol. And we know whatever it is, Aubrey's obviously going to give it for this movie. He's made that very clear, but let's see how me and Brittany pan out.
No. I'm not saying the voting symbol. I'm just saying I'm not going to act like I can't act like I don't love this movie.
Okay.
It's going to be very obvious in the things I say.
Okay.
So I'm just saying what we're
very good.
And I very much understand the point of waiting to the end to vote. Yes. I do not take away from that. I'm just saying it's just not going to happen in this particular
not today
case. Because I will also admit that I'm biased because I mean you got figures 84, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, 6, 7, 8 years old or whatever.
And it used to come on television.
And it used to come on TV all the time. Yes. So it was just one of those movies that I got to see a lot and then I would watch every time. So I was interested. I was like, I wonder if I would still like it. And yes, I did.
Yeah.
Still love it. So,
Brittany, do you remember it from back in the day?
I remember this movie coming on TV every now and then, but when I was watching it, it was the first time. Mm-hmm. It was my first time really watching this movie. Mm-hmm. So it was new.
I definitely remember it was on all the time, which is why when I started looking it up and it was called a horror movie, I'm like, it's no way that it indexes as serious horror because it would be on regular TV all the time.
But I'm sure they edited some of the parts
scenes.
Out.
When we were watching it, I remember certain scenes, but not the whole thing.
I actually didn't remember the whole first part. And I liked it. I liked the switch in tone and how it was like action, then it like lulled out for a while.
Yes.
But it really let the characters build and so I like that. So anyway, my symbol is not creative. And it comes from my favorite part of the movie.
Yes.
And my symbol is a fireball.
Yes.
Because when them dudes is trying to shoot her, and I'm telling y'all, it's pretty lame.
I don't think it's lame.
Mara
I think we don't even really have to discuss it.
Mara was looking at me like, just because I was so excited. I was like, oh, you got some machine guns there, huh?
Yeah. And no one's there.
Is that what
ball of fire.
Bullets?
I don't even feel like this is a discussion because I was going to say as well, fireball or just a flame. Or I was going to say like her hair, like a wig flying.
I think it is a discussion.
It's not a discussion. Fireball. We don't like it. Fireball.
No, I do want to hear Jania's over analytical. That's
no, because she's going to say something like,
she's going to be like, well,
a bale of hay.
Charlie walked past
I
the
would
lamppost.
Like to go with a bale of hay. No.
Charlie and her dad walked past the lamppost in the beginning.
No.
And the lamppost illuminated.
No, you're only allowed to say what it is, but you are not allowed to explain it.
Brittany, I want the explanation.
When I say what it is, it won't even need explanation because it's so good.
Okay, let's go.
The Plantation House.
All right, we're done. I told you. We're out of here. We're out of here. We're out of here.
If you see the movie,
Fireball, let's go.
The government agency that is responsible for all of this. They're called the Shop. And their headquarters it's like a plantation house.
It looks like the White House.
Yeah. And so it's one of these things it's something about the fact that it's hiding in plain sight. And everything appears normal, but it definitely isn't. It's just like you're seeing this dad and daughter walking down the street. Little do you know they can control your mind and they blow you up. Okay. Listen, and it's just like this looks like a plantation house. And it is literally a place where like weapons of mass destruction and assassins are being contemplated. So there's something about the fact that something that appears normal but isn't. So much of what the Charlie character wanted was to just be a normal little girl. She says it. She's like, I want that more than anything. And if you looked at her, she had the cutest, sweetest little demeanor. She was just a sweet little girl, but she had this power she had to learn to manage. And so I thought the plantation house had that duality. So
we're doing the Fireball. We're doing the Fireball.
Yeah, we're going with Fireball. So at the end of this podcast,
but listen though, like I've been waiting to discuss the hidden themes of not hidden, but like the larger conversation of this.
And as I do, I will always joke Jania's ideas. But the funny thing is, they always make sense, and it's like, I get what
she explains them for 20 minutes.
I get what she said. I get what she said.
I understand.
20 minutes of your life. That's 20 minutes of your life.
I love them. They're not the best 20 minutes for Skylar, though.
Skylar loved it too. She's like, "You're a genius, Mom." I know. She tells me that all the time. What? It's a great idea. Okay, she likes it.
But can you read the recap, please?
I think she just thinks it's chicken.
Can you read the recap, please?
Yes, definitely. So this movie will need to get 3 fireballs at the end of this discussion in order to be considered a classic from the Wright perspective. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. Spoiler alert. We've already given like 25 spoilers, but anyway.
8 million.
And we always do a recap because our content is generally quite old. So we do a recap and then you don't have to go back and watch it necessarily before the podcast. So it just helps everybody stay on the same page. Let's do a quick recap of the 1984 Firestarter, the original. The movie starts with a father, Andy McGee, played by David Keith, running through the streets of Washington, D.C., holding his 8-year-old daughter, Charlene, but goes by Charlie, played by Drew Barrymore. They're being chased by men in suits in cars that are clearly government agents of some sort. And through flashbacks, you learn what's going on. The father, Andy, and his late wife, Vicki Tomlinson, played by Heather Locklear, participated in a drug trial for money when they were in college. They were the only 2 that survived. The hallucinogen they were given was called Lot 6, and it essentially gave them superpowers, okay? So what is Lot 6? Well, I'm glad you asked, okay? Lot 6 was supposed to just be a powerful painkiller hallucinogen made from a synthetic copy of an extract of the pituitary gland that gives people the powers. So, most people experience from time to time things like a little precognition. We might call it deja vu, telekinesis, mental domination. So that particular pituitary fluid from that gland is what was used for Lot 6. And as a result of it being given to Vicki and Andy, they now have superpowers. Vicki can read minds. Andy can control the minds of others. And he can apparently control some machines like a television. That was weird when they threw that little piece in. It was like, what? I thought you controlled people. Then he was controlling a television. And when they had a child, she was born with the ability to start fires with her mind. Okay, with her mind.
In the mind.
And also sometimes she has premonitions. Okay. The government entity that controlled all of this is called the Shop. And they've already murdered the wife, Vicky, a year ago. And now they want to get rid of Andy and capture their daughter, Charlie. They want to see if they can use Charlie as a weapon of mass destruction. Andy and Charlie manage to evade them by running down highways, mind controlling a cab driver played by Antonio Fargas, hitchhiking, and genuinely befriending a farmer couple named Irv and Norma Manders, played by Art Carney and Louise Fletcher. Along the way, you learn more about the complications they're experiencing. Over time, Andy's powers have started to take a toll on his body. Every time he controls someone's mind, he gets a nosebleed and becomes weak. And Charlie, for good reason, has very complicated feelings about all of this. She knows that it's not her fault that she has the powers, but she also knows that it's bad to burn things and people. And so she understands also that the powers are the reason her mother is dead and the reason she and her father have been on the run for a year. She's tired of being afraid and she just wants to be a normal kid. Andy and Charlie make their way to the abandoned cabin of Andy's late father and prepare to go public with their story. They know that bringing the press in is their only chance at safety. Unfortunately, while mailing the letters, they are spotted by agents of the shop, and a trained assassin named John Rainbird, played by George C. Scott, was deployed to capture them, and he is successful using a dart gun full of sedatives. Andy and Charlie are taken to the shop. They're put in separate holding rooms and forced to do experiments to show their superpowers. At first, Andy is not able to perform because they keep him drugged, but then he finds a way to stop taking the medicine and gain control of the head of the shop by taking control of his mind. And this character was played by Charlie Sheen. At first, little Charlie refuses to show her powers, but then she gets manipulated by Rainbird, who pretends to be a friendly janitor, and he basically tricks her into participating in the shop's exercises. And let me say, boy, does she, okay? She is blowing up cinder blocks, okay, with her mind, okay? Finally, the father concocts a plan to get them out. Rainbird foils it by killing the father, but with his dying breath, Andy tells his daughter, burn it all down, baby. And boy, does she. Okay, she melts bullets that come near her. She throws fireballs to burn properties, cars, a helicopter, and a ton of bad guys. Okay, in the end, she returns to the farming couple, the only adults that she knows that she can trust because they know her story and were helpful to her and her father while they were on the run. The movie ends with Charlie and her new farmer guardians taking her to the New York Times building to expose everything. The end.
Great job. Fantastic.
So you can see why the fireballs, you can see why it's our voting symbol. Yes. Because it is the way that Charlie brings the shop to its knees. Okay.
I want you to burn it all down. Burn it all down.
Bro, I think you got to kick us off because of your clear enthusiasm here.
I just love that part so much. I just love that part. And I think she just did such a good job acting, because I feel like she was acting how a little girl would act in this situation.
Yes.
Like, even with her being smart, but she's still malleable. She's manipulatable because she's a little girl.
She wants to trust. She wants to friend.
And just like when she, at the end, she was so excited to tell him that they were getting out. You know what I mean? And like, that's how it would have been. It was like, oh, we got our way out. And then it was just like, when she realized the betrayal and you killed my dad, and it was
and
just
I thought you were my friend, Rainbird.
And it was that moment. It was that moment of this whole movie. She's trying to keep it in check. The whole movie. I'd still back off. Just back off. Back off.
That's what she would say if you haven't seen the movie. That was her little mechanism. That was her way of calming herself down.
She let the beast out
to her inner fire person.
Back
off.
Back off. Back off. Because she could kind of. And that's another thing that would have been dope in a sequel that was well done, to really kind of explore how it works. Because it's almost like this thing within her that she controls, but not really. It's like you're slightly out of control of it all the time. I remember I was watching this guy talk about racing NASCAR, and he was like, "You're always slightly out of control of your, of your car," and it was just in that moment where the dad just realized that, look, these people are not reasonable. They will not leave us alone. They're not going to leave you alone.
And so I won't be here to protect you because I'm dying.
So guess what?
Take them down.
Burn it all down. And she just had this thing. She was still, crying. She was still emotional. But then when she walked out, she had her marching orders, baby. And it wasn't nobody safe. And I just, the way, and even how she was like, she let and I know we're already talking about the end, so we gotta go back.
Do it again.
But I'm just saying, like, was she melted all the locks for the horses? That was another one of my favorite parts, because she's like, all right, go on now, because it's about to get hot around here. So y'all are innocent animals. I love horses. It was like, clear everything out, and now I don't have no limits. I don't have no limits.
The only people innocent, only entities innocent here are the horses, and they're gone.
That's all right. Anybody else innocent will be running away right now. So if you hear, I'm sorry. It's like, and then all the ways they were blowing those people up, and like how they had the three dudes running away, and she made a fire path. So all three of them were like, all of them. Man, I just love that scene. I just feel like they really knocked it out of the park. I'm surprised it wasn't successful. But again, I'm biased, so I don't know. But I just feel like
it had a lot of competition. Terminator was that year, 1984. You know what I mean? So I don't know. The only reason I even know, James was like, I think Terminator came out around that time, and it was literally the exact same year.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's hard.
So it might have been about the competition of the period.
Yeah.
And movies were more fun back then, in the sense of, you saw the trailer, and you would just kind of go, and you would hope it was good, but you didn't realize, you didn't know until you were in there. So, and the only way you could see it again was to go in there. So I
don't know if this contributed to the reception of it, but there was one bit of trivia I found on IMDb where they said that this movie can be considered as part of a late 1970s, early 1980s cycle of movies that dealt with telekinesis and psychokinesis. And the pictures, it's a long list: Carrie, The Fury, The Cinder, Firestarter, Scanners, The Medusa Touch, Ruby, Jennifer, Patrick, The Dead Zone, The Kirlian Witness, Zapped, Modern Problems. So it's like this, it was like maybe the theme was getting overdone.
And you know what? It's just crazy because
who knows?
History just repeats itself. Mm-hmm. That's it's like you find out what is good, and then everybody just.
Yeah, I remember we had a vampire decade, didn't we? Like I feel like
a lot of vampires.
We did have
for
some
a
vampires.
Long swath.
Blade Interview with a Vampire.
Vampire television shows.
Yeah.
Vampire young adult books and movies.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Vampire movies because of the adult books.
Yes. So yeah, all of those things probably contributed to the reception.
Yeah.
Not being as huge, but it also didn't win any awards. I don't know whether y'all noticed in the opening. Normally I'll talk about the awards the movie won. They didn't win any awards. Drew Barrymore she got like 2 nominations for like a non-major award.
Okay.
But there were no awards, y'all, which is so interesting. Yeah. But again, when I think about, Terminator came out. All right, well,
yeah,
maybe it was some tough competition.
I guess even if you're putting something in the words, using the word classic, you normally would think about it having some awards. Mm-hmm. So,
does it have when you were doing your research, as I'm sure you did tonight, does it have a cult following? Is it, because I'm part of it if it has one?
You know what? I didn't read anything.
You're not good at your cult following if you don't know if there is one.
Well, it has a cult following. Better question. Does this movie have a cult following of one? Or is it more than one? That's a better question.
One thing is for sure. I didn't read
Why
about
do you
a cult.
pull up the website and it's Aubrey like,
with a fireball in his hand.
Exactly.
Well, I will say I didn't read about, there wasn't an apparent cult following like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Gotcha. So let me just say that. It could be out there, but it wasn't as apparent.
I'm just curious.
It has to be there enough that there was a follow-on series on sci-fi.
Yeah.
And then a full remake, major
so it has to be something.
Picture. Oh, it's out there.
You know, I wanted to get into first of all, you know, everything that Aubrey was saying, I'm like, I was feeling the same way as I was watching it. But the larger part, I wanted to, not a larger part, but a part that I don't know if this was supposed to be in there or not, and Janiyah spoke about it some, but just like speaking about the government concerning poor people. So in the movie, you're seeing, which I enjoyed, they were doing flashbacks. So you didn't just get like this full timeline. You were like in it, and then you understood why you were in it. Yeah, and so I like when they did that.
Yeah, that was good too.
And so part of how Keith David and Heather Locklear's characters met, that's Andy and what's Heather Locklear's character's name?
Vicky.
How they meet is that they're part of an experiment by the shop, which if you have ever grown up around any like university or anything like that, there's always something out there. Oh, do you want to participate in this test? And you'll get paid for it.
Totally.
And so, and this was an experiment where they were like, there was 10 participants and 5 were supposed to just get regular water. And then another 5 were going to get whatever this lot 6. And so they don't know how it was supposed to react. Now, some people were losing their mind. One guy, he started bleeding from everywhere. His eyeballs were gone. I was like, well, what was in that lot? And so, but what it did for, as she stated, it gave Vicky, you know, the powers and Andy the powers. And all I could think to myself is, and they never said how much they were getting paid. But all I could think to myself is, how much were they paying them, and how did they make this, and how much did they need the money that you're willing to allow this government entity to inject something into you? And I just thought that was just extremely interesting, just having that part. And now you've participated, you've made your money. Now, all of a sudden, because it worked, you're now an enemy of the government. And we need to track you, and we need to keep you, and we need to control you, because the things that we put in you, they actually worked.
Now, pause really quickly, sis, because they were not intending to make superheroes. Because remember, there was a doctor who was actually at the shop that was saying,
well, no, not that they were intending, but now what they did.
Right. But the reality of what happened was
that's happened. Oh, so now we need to control you. And I was just thinking, so much of that is so a large part of what happens in our country, of wanting to control people and manipulate, or say, hey, do this and try this. And it's really an experiment. And there are so many just documented experiments of those types of things happen. One notable would be the Tuskegee experiment. And so you just have these things going on, and they're so silent, as Janiyah was talking about. They're silent, but they're in the open. How awful is that? How terrible is that?
Well, that was one of the things that I loved about movies back then, is that it's not that movies were devoid of messages. Messages emerged, but it was more about the story. Like they would write the story, and then within the story of just life, you know, you would see messages come out. Because if you're telling stories based on life, the messages are going to be there. As opposed to how it is today, where it's like you take a message and then you try to wrap a movie around it to really, and it's like the message almost gets lost, because it's like you're beating somebody over the head with it. Whereas in this situation, like a lot of the movies back then, it's like, look, we're making a movie. And then when you watch the movie, you step back and say, oh,
this is talking about a larger conversation.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like you're telling the movie. You're like, imagine telling the idea of this movie. Like, yeah, there are these people who took this experimental drug, and it's like they're telling the story of a movie, but also that actually happened, which probably gave them the idea for the movie. So I'm just saying, when you're telling good stories, the messages are going to be, I think, to your point, even more impactful. Because
another one that was really present was about like the parental struggle to keep a child innocent in tough circumstances, you know. And so those parents, like, they were working so hard to make sure that, you know, little Charlie still just, you know, got to feel like a little girl, got to have some innocence about her, even though she had these powers, and they were dealing with the pressure of this entity trying to find them, you know. And I think about that, you know, parents trying to allow their children to have some innocence while, you know, they're maybe in a community that's being terrorized or marginalized, and, you know, you just do the best you can. You know?
I think about, I love that, you know, just saying that, because it's this one particular thing that's speaking to larger parts of what is happening in society and what is happening to different communities and in different ways. But I will say, on the lighter side, I was texting, I went back to texting Aubrey and Genia. I know I used to do that in past seasons. I haven't really done that quite a bit with these past movies. But the first thing I thought to myself
let me clarify this for our newer listeners and viewers. When Brittany says she texts us, what she's actually doing is texting 100% of her reactions while she's watching the movie. So it could be every second she's sending a message for the entirety of the movie. That's why I had to zone out on the thread. Whatever pops into her mind. I just want to clarify what the experience is for her loved ones. Please continue.
So first of all, I just want to say you're welcome. That's first and foremost, okay? Because
one day I'm gonna have to. I might post. I have a folder on my computer saved for both of y'all with watching Game of Thrones. I have.
Some of those might need to be censored.
Both of my sisters are already dramatic, but like, especially in the first like seasons.
One of the things I text them was, how do you discipline a child that can burn you when you get mad?
Yeah, it's tough.
How do you
tough situation?
Stop doing so. And there's a part in the movie where Charlie wants to continue to try to test her powers out, but she needs to go to bed. And her mom was like, no, tomorrow at breakfast we can try again. And she gets upset. No, I want to do it right now, and catches her mom's not mittens or gloves. What are the gloves called?
Cooking gloves, girl.
Cooking gloves.
Oven
I don't know. Oven mitts. Thank you.
Yeah.
She catches her oven mitts on fire and burns her mom's hands. And I was just like, how do you discipline this child? Like, because she's not meaning to do it, but it's happening because she's upset about it. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was a hilarious thing.
And I think that really speaks to the writing. Yes. Because the thing about it is, it's hard to remember when you were a kid. You know, like really remember. But like back in the day, if your parents did something to you or whatever, like you might have really hated them for that hour or whatever.
You packed your clothes to run away.
It was a serious, like it was, you know, it's funny now, but like in the moment, you're like, oh, I hate you. You know, like you're really.
I can't stand
it. It's the most important thing that's ever happened to you.
Yes.
The stakes are extremely high for you as a child in those moments.
And I'm just saying, to Brittany's point, that is a touchy situation, because however she's being governed by those emotions at that moment, but you're telekinetic, that is a dangerous situation.
Absolutely.
It's not like a little, like, little Bobby, he's like, you know, go to your room. And it's like he slams the door. No, this is like, if she slams the door, the whole house could catch on fire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is happening? Which, if you all noticed, in parts of the movie, you see that the part when Andy finds his wife dead, where he goes home and sees that his wife and daughter are not like accessible. They're not at the house, but he finds his wife. She's dead. And then he's running around looking for Andy. But as he's running around, there are literally fire extinguishers in every part of the house. They're in the hallways. It's on the stairwells, in every room.
Wow, I didn't catch that, sis. They were
like, listen, we don't know what's going to happen. We got to be able to put you out.
That was a good catch.
And so I thought that was really interesting. But I wanted the other part
that just got even better.
Totally.
One part that I also wanted to name, listen, this little farm couple. Let me tell you something.
But before we leave Charlie's innocence,
okay.
I know we're talking about the story and the writing and how well they wrote that dilemma of raising the child with all of this complexity. I have to talk a little bit about the acting. Drew Barrymore, as a little child actress, 8 years old, she had to convey that complexity.
And she killed it.
And she did. The complexity of, I am just a kid and I have this thing in me that is bad, and they call it bad, and it's like, you don't want to say something that is innate to your child is bad, but it's like, setting fires, it's hard to think of what good will come of this,
right.
And so they're trying to teach her how to control it and to still be proud of who she is and to understand that all of this happened to them, and there's nothing that they can do about it. And that little Drew Barrymore, she did so well. There was this one scene where they have finally found a quiet place to sleep. They had made their way to an abandoned family cabin, and they just had one night of good rest. And the dad was like, "Are you okay? How are you doing?" And she was like, "I feel safe." And that's one of those lines that could be so corny if it is not delivered well. It's like, you feel safe, little girl. Like, why would you say that as a child? But she delivered that line so well. A tear may or may not have trickled down my face because she was like,
she's gone through so much in these few years she's been alive.
Yeah,
she's gone through so much.
Yeah,
it was just interesting that I did not feel like I was watching somebody acting when it came to her, because even the moments where she was corny, like when they were in the testing facility, right? And she told the doctor, you may want to back up, right? It was corny the way she said it, but that's how a little girl would have delivered it in that moment. She would have did it exactly like that. She would have been a little arrogant, a little, just,
I'm about to do my thing, Yeah.
If she would have been too good, it wouldn't have rung true. It was like she knew how to channel her youth and innocence into these different situations that made you feel like she was really reacting, So that was that.
And one more little piece before we move to the next thing. It says, I thank you you're going to take us to the next topic. In the remake, the major picture,
the 2022 remake. One,
yes, the 2022 with Zac Efron. Okay, in that one, they have changed up the parents' perspectives a little bit. In the movie, in the 1984 Firestarter, they are trying to train her to use her powers from the very beginning. They want her to know how to harness them and how to use them. In the remake, the dad is telling her never to use her powers. So she just doesn't know how to use them. And so that's what ends up happening when she explodes at school. It's because she's not been working with the powers and doesn't know how to use them. And she's afraid of them and she's ashamed of them.
Man, they should have sent her to the X-Men school.
Right? But you remember, that's also the premise of Frozen. The animated movie Frozen, where it's like they didn't want her to use her ice powers, but then it was like, these ice powers coming out.
Listen, let it go.
Hello. Let it go.
See, even that, and obviously, if Drew Barrymore had that girl on, I mean, I guess she must have liked the movie on some level. The remake.
She did. She was very emotional. She thought it was well done.
But I'm just saying, even that makes less sense than the original premise of, it's like that dad was a dad trying to figure this out. You know what I mean? Like he knew, like, I'm not trying to get her to not do this is ridiculous. Like that is not, that's not going to work. And I'm just saying, in terms of parenting, to me, that is a much better method of parenting, of realizing my child has this whatever, and this is on a level that I have to teach them how to live with this.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I have to teach them how to live with this.
Oh, because bro, you just made me think about the fact that like what we've talked about before about like being raised to never talk about sex. Sex is for grown-ups.
That's
and we never talk about it. You don't.
It's a beautiful example.
Right. We never talk about it. It's the devil. Don't go there, and nothing good can come of it. And then what ends up happening is you are a child growing up, you become a teen, you are a sexual creature because it's just the facts of biology here.
There's some regular organs happening.
And if you haven't had those conversations, what happens? Right.
I mean, it's just you're in a situation you're completely unprepared for.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Because it's like when you're in, because imagine that a parent trying to tell you not to use your powers as example. Now we're in a situation where you can't control it. It's completely foreign. Who knows
exactly right.
What's going to happen? So I'm just saying that's all. The fact that he was such a good parent is what made it hit so hard when he got shot, because it was like he was doing everything he could. He was trying to get her to learn, and you even saw they didn't make him perfect.
No,
because even there was times where it was like, you got to learn how to control it.
Yeah.
You know, like he was like, let me, you know, like, but that's what would happen in that situation where it's like, you love your daughter, you also love your wife. Your daughter is burning your wife's heads up, and you're like, this was bad. It could have been worse. You got all these things going on.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying,
you have to learn the implications, the potential implications, but you also need consequences for what just happened here.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Right. So what's the balance?
Always with the mindset that she might burn you up next.
That's right.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? I think if he had a list of concerns, that was probably the least of it. He was. I'm not saying that he wanted to get burned up, but like his thought was, how can I get her to be able to survive in this world? Yes. Like he was just so, consumed with that. I don't think he considered.
Well, you know what, bro? I love that you said that, because that was one of the things that I was going to mention, is that while this is an action horror thriller, all the genres, it was also a bit of a drama. In the sense that I loved it portraying this relationship between a father and a daughter. Because what you just said, bro, is what I think every father does for children, period. But the way fathers raise daughters, I need to make sure that you are prepared for what is happening in this world. I need to make sure that you are self-sufficient and that you can thrive and survive, and that certain things don't rattle you, and that you can move forward. I think about our father doing that for all three of us. But another thing I wanted to name was just about the farm couple. Listen, let me tell you something. If I'm ever out here and I need somebody to protect, I want to run into the farm couple. One of the government agents are changing their tires on the side of the road, and they see the father and daughter inside the pickup truck with the older man. And one of the government agents writes down the license plate. So of course they track them to the house. And so they're on their way there. The little daughter warns them, and the father in this moment is like, listen, you got to do what you got to do. You're not bad. She's like, but will you be mad at me? He's like, no, you need to do that. And let me tell you, she does what she does. But before she does what she does, the husband is like, do you want me to get my deer gun? Right? I was like, he was ready to ride or die. He didn't understand the situation, but all he knew is that it was an innocent father trying to protect his innocent daughter, and he was ready to go.
And then when the shots arrived, when the bad guys arrived on his front lawn, he was on the porch with his gun, like, this is private property, and unless you have a warrant.
Look, and
he said, I didn't move the turkey.
Those characters rang very true as well.
Yes, they did.
And since I don't move into the South, I have met people like that. It's like those characters ring true, because
they were so real.
I'm telling you, you will meet some people down here. It's like, you come up on my land, I don't care what government you talk about.
Listen, I used to live in Mississippi. If you want the smoke, listen, they're bringing the fire. Right. Understand? And I promise you, when he said it about that gun, but then he walked out with it.
He walked out with it, loaded up.
Yeah, ready to go.
He was ready to go. And when he
talked about it before he brought it out.
I didn't move the turkey. He said, "This is in America. You need it."
That's right. That's right.
I was like, "Yes." He was with the shit, and I was like, "I love this so much."
And it's so.
But it wasn't. The point of it wasn't even corny. It was like that's corny. How it would be if you was in Tennessee, and this dude decided to bring you to his house. That's how it would be.
Exactly. It was so authentic. And so I appreciate that so much.
And y'all, and I have to say, those two actors, listen, they did not have I don't know what would constitute a major role in this film.
Right.
But they just had that one little couple of scenes. But those are serious actors. So I wanted to tell you, Louise Fletcher, who played the mother, the wife, Norma Manders.
Yeah,
she has a Golden Globe for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. These are award-winning people. The man who played Irv Manders, he's actually, the show The Honeymooners?
Yeah.
He's the skinny guy.
Oh, wow.
And he won an Academy Award for Best Actor for his 1974 performance as Harry Combs in Harry and Tonto.
Oh, well, this is why they did so well. These were expert. I mean, they played those parts.
These were serious actors at the time, even. James was like, you couldn't put together a cast of equivalent actors right now because it would be too expensive.
Yeah, no,
he was like, this was a bunch of heavy hitters.
Yeah,
at the time.
Yeah.
I can't even really think of the movie was definitely a 1980s movie.
Sure.
We can't really talk about the soundtrack because 1980. It was
the score. It was kind of
it was the score. Yeah. It's that sound. See, that's back when there's this one dude on YouTube Shorts, and he played he'll be like, when it's 1980 and you're a cop getting off of work, and he'll play because all that music,
it
sounded kind of the same. But I'm just saying, so in terms of the acting of it, it's just interesting to see. It's like, you don't got a whole bunch of stuff around that, but the whole concept behind it was different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the last thing I'll say, and I'm done. Mm-hmm. This was the man that played John, or what's his name? Rupert. What was his last name?
John Rainbird.
George
C. Scott. This is another heavy hitter.
Listen,
they had to
George
go back
C.
and
Scott.
renegotiate their budget to be able to afford him.
Let me tell you something.
What you need to know.
He played the mess out of this character that was insane. This man. Basically, I'm like, at some point, I'm pretty sure he was like a regular thinking person, but then he went into the military, and he is like, all is war. And I don't care who you are, small or big, it doesn't matter. Adult, child, if it's time for you to go, it's time for you to go. And then when I go, because he had a nice monologue talking about when he dies, wherever he goes, he said he'll be laughing in that place and telling stories. And I was like, oh, you're a little touched. And so I just want to name how well he did in this movie.
George C. Scott has an Academy Award, 2 Golden Globes, 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, nominations for 2 BAFTA Awards, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and 5 Tony Awards.
Listen,
that's that guy. Now, was he playing an Indigenous person? And he's not an Indigenous person? Yes.
Okay, but I didn't realize that that's what he was doing.
Well, his name was Rainbird, and he had a ponytail, which is one of the, indicators in a tropish way.
Oh, I just thought that was his last name,
Rainbird.
I wasn't. Says I promise you, I don't even remember them making any. He just because especially when he was he made it the story about him going and fighting
his
with
name
the Kongs,
his name is John Rainbird.
His name is John Rainbird, but I will say this. They actually, let me see here. So if you actually go to the Stephen King fandom space.
Yeah.
Okay. John Rainbird is a Native American who's scarred because of the Vietnam War. and he's lost an eye and is an agent and assassin of the shop.
Well, listen, I'm going to pretend like I don't know. I don't want to.
I'm gonna but I don't feel like they did anything in the movie. Like they didn't have him do something.
Right, like he didn't like show up like
other than the ponytail, and he made a little comment about the gods and spirits. Other than that, I don't think they did anything tropish. Like they didn't have him talking like broken English or something.
I just because some people just wear ponytails, man. You know, like
well, in Firestarter 2 Rekindled, they actually, I think they did cast an
actual indigenous person. Let me tell you something. I did not realize that at all. Maybe I just missed something, but just as this character, him going in and the way they wrote him to be this man that he hunts his prey. And he will hunt his prey in any way that he needs to.
Yes.
So to have him go into a mode of like, how do I get Charlie? Because they captured them, they want Charlie to use her powers because they want to see how powerful she is. How do I get Charlie to get comfortable enough? He creates this character, an orderly that's just supposed to a janitor that comes to clean her room. And then in the moment, he's like, I need to find something. So there happens to be a storm that takes the power out of the plantation house that they're staying in. And he uses that as a way to say, basically, that he has PTSD from the war, from the Vietnam War. And I was like, this man is a sadistic, insane genius and how he's manipulating this entire situation.
Let me read you his.
They did
his
very
wiki
well with that character.
Let me read you his wiki description on the Stephen King fandom page. Okay. Now, of course, this is about the book and the movies.
Skylar, what you doing? Where you going?
I know she's banging on the table. She's climbing on my thigh. It's ridiculous. John Rainbird was played by George C. Scott in the 1984 movie adaptation. He is a Native American working as an agent/assassin for the shop, and he is a badly scarred Vietnam veteran. He is also a psychopath, obsessed with wanting to know what is beyond life through his victims, which is why he likes to kill them while he can look into their eyes and watch them die correspondingly. And we saw him do that. It also gives him a feeling of power, which he wants to take with him after his death. He plans to kill Charlie because he is convinced her death would give him special power, which he wants to take to the other world. He killed Andy McGee and Joseph Wanless. After killing Andy, he tried to kill Andy's daughter, Charlie McGee, which he intended to do from the beginning once the shop had finished with their experiments on her. But she melted the bullet and burnt him to death in the book.
Oh, when she stopped that bullet,
and it exploded.
That's what starts the whole. And I'm just telling you, anyway, that's not the point of what we're talking about. You know what's interesting is that would have, I never got that at all. But I'm saying if this person was somebody who was into mystical, like it would have made it make more sense why he was so obsessed with her. And so they probably could have fleshed that part out a little more.
I heard him say it.
He said it.
Yeah.
He said it, but it was just
in a kind of weird way, but he was also such a psychopath.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Like just some crazy rhetoric.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that would have been interesting though, to go down a path of, because even if they left him white, he could have, spent some time with some Native Americans or something and, had misconstrued something or something, like
something.
But I'm
maybe
just
he
saying,
changed his last name.
But he was just so.
But it's actually Smith. You know what I mean?
But he was just so evil that he was a truly. And I'm gonna tell you, it's interesting watching people play psychopaths like that because they go into danger with no concern.
No,
there's this show. It's called The Boys, right? And it's out now. And it's a superhero show, but it's a superhero show it's hard to explain. It's like based in the real world. It's like, what would happen if there were actual, superhero people in the world?
Yeah.
And the most powerful of them is this guy called Homelander. You know what I'm saying? And the way that it's based in today. So like superheroes are famous people, they're celebrities, and they're all part of this company. And the company has the CEO, he's played by we just watched one of his movies, Giancarlo Esposito. So he plays the CEO or whatever. And Homelander is so powerful, he can hear people's heartbeats. Like he knows if you're nervous. And the point is, the only person who Homelander is scared of is, his name is Edgar or something. Stan Edgar. So the only person he's like has pause is Stan Edgar. And Stan Edgar is just a normal person. He's just a regular, he doesn't have no powers or anything. He just runs the company, but he is truly not scared of Homelander. So like when Homelander hears his heart, he's like, it's the leg going up.
This man is nuts.
Yeah,
he's not intimidated.
But the point I'm just trying to say is, it's interesting to watch people really play psychopaths. Yeah. Because when you're a psychopath, you're not affected by the same emotions that other people have. Yes. And it's just like, he was so hell-bent on just destroying this little girl or doing whatever. Yes, and he had no qualms about it at all. And it was just,
he wanted to do a violent, he wanted to chop her in the nose so her bones could fly into her brain.
I mean,
I was like,
and then he said, when she dies, I'm going to steal her power. Her power is going to come into me. And then he was talking about his own death. Like, I hope my death is soon. And I'm like, I hope so too.
Please, because you don't need to be walking around here. I'd rather have somebody reading my brain and controlling me than you. I don't know what's happening here.
Yes.
He did that character very well.
Yeah.
Even their interactions, it's like, you see what he's doing, but it's like, I'm an adult. Charlie would not see
at all
what he was doing.
No. And there's another acting performance I want to call out, which is Moses Gunn, who plays the doctor at the scientist at the shop. Mm-hmm. He plays Dr. Pinchot.
That was a satisfying death too.
Oh man. Did you all remember him? He was Bumpy from Shaft. He was Bumpy Jonas.
Baby Boo.
Yeah. From our review of Shaft Baby series. Yeah, so I thought he did a really good job because he's one of those people that's like, he's a bad guy because all he cares about is the science. And it's like, you don't even care about these people. And that's what makes him a bad guy. You know?
Listen, and let me tell you something. I want to be clear because I was thinking about in real terms. When some people, the people that ran when they first saw the farm, the barn catch on fire, that would have been me. By the time she was having balls of fire come out the sky and trails of fire following people, I would have been at home, showered, and eating dinner.
And that's why
I would have never.
Listen, that's why she can let loose. Because like I said, anybody who's still, if you're still here, you ain't innocent. I'm sorry to tell you.
The people that were running into the house to get away from her, I said,
you done.
Girl, I hope you were running in there to get your car keys because your purse is in the other room, because I would have been, and then they closed the gates. I would have been running my Honda Elantra through the gates. Y'all need to open up. She's loose. She's loose now. Did y'all see what she did to us in her block? I'm just mere bones. I'm gone. I'm absolutely gone. No.
The one thing I never understand in these movies is when you shoot somebody and it's completely ineffective. I don't know why people keep doing it.
Like come back.
Like it wasn't like those bullets hit her
my gun will
and slowed her down a little bit.
Right.
You're seeing the bullets aren't even reaching her.
No.
They are bouncing off her aura.
The one man came after the machine gun with his one little pistol. I said, sir, you deserve to blow up.
Yeah, you deserve.
I was like, you deserve it.
And it allowed me to fully enjoy that scene.
Yeah. Look at her like this.
It's just like all of y'all deserve it. Even the doctor who he sat around there for like 2 minutes. You could have been gone, bro.
Gone.
Nah, Now you try to run?
Yeah, part of him wanted to see what would happen. That's the problem.
Listen,
and guess what? You saw what happened.
You did
up close.
Yeah.
And I don't think you understood. It's a golf cart. It wasn't getting up to 100 miles per hour.
No.
You would have had better chance on your feet. I was
like, the helicopter didn't make it. What were you about to do? That's my question. What
were you doing? And then the helicopter coming around.
You know what's interesting about this movie is that it has these not sequels or follow-ups, and then it has a sequel, but it didn't make any money. The Rotten Tomato score is like really low. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's 38% for the critics and 53% for the audience. Mm-hmm. And so I just wonder, and again, I know I'm biased because it came into my life where I was probably excited to watch anything on TV, and it just built on top of that. You know what I'm saying? Because even back then,
and we were kids, and she was a kid, and it was just
we were kids. She was a kid, and remember how you could, when you wanted to watch a movie, you had to get ready because they'd be like, Firestarter this Friday 8:00. You had to lead up to it. You had to sacrifice whatever else was on TV to watch. And so it was just a very special time. But it's just interesting. It's one of those movies that I don't know if I'm just tripping, but I really enjoyed it.
And why don't we go to the vote then?
I was about to say it sounds like we're voting already.
Well, let me read the one little trivia on the effects, because again, it was
Talk about
so in a 2010 interview, director Mark L. Lester confirmed that this was the most difficult film he ever made. He said that, this is the quote, "That was all practical effects. The fireballs you see, that's not CGI. Back then, we actually created fireballs that could fly through the air. They were on a wire and could crash into buildings. We had people on fire that were on trampolines that had to flip through the air. It was very dangerous. All the effects were done right on the set. It was a pretty intense thing to do then." And I actually watched a couple of little behind the scenes videos, and you see the stuntmen, okay? They're suiting up. They only have 90 seconds before they either burn or suffocate in the suit, and they have to do the scene. They have to hit the marks. Like, you have to flip here, and they have to do it in 90 seconds. And then 4 people rush up and fire extinguish them, Man. And
well, let me let you know.
This is no CGI.
I'm going to just say, I don't know if you will ever watch this, any of you people who worked on Firestarter, and I'm just letting you know you got somebody who appreciated it.
Listen, you did it.
Thank you.
All
you did that thing.
You did that. Well, take us to the vote. I had to get that one little trivia in. Take us to the vote. Take us to the vote, bro.
Well, obviously. And not only did I like this movie, I was literally on my feet. I really was. We were in the bed and watching it, and Mara loves watching me watch movies that but I'm sorry, when she stops that bullet, because what sets it off, he shoots her dad. They go through their, whatever, but when he tries to kill her and that bullet just stops, they got a little more emotion to do. And after that, it's on. And that scene still gets me on my feet. So yes, it gets my fireball 100%. This is a classic from the Aubrey perspective.
Well, I'm going to tell y'all, I shared this with Brittany. I could not remember the details of the movie from when we were little, but I remembered how it made me feel. I remember being exhilarated by the movie.
Right.
I genuinely remembered that. And so when I was watching, I couldn't remember any of the details, but I started it with just remembering how good it made me feel. And y'all, it didn't disappoint. I was exhilarated through this movie, and I was genuinely shocked to see that it did not win awards. That is how much I was exhilarated by the movie. Wow. Are there some things that I think they could have done differently? Yes. I did think it was strange when they gave Charlie a little bit. They gave us one scene where she had a premonition. One scene in the whole movie. So it wasn't like she was consistently having premonitions. So that was a little weird.
You're talking about when she was at the
they were at the farmhouse.
When they were at the farm.
And she was like, they're coming. And the dad was like, they are, you know?
I think they did that a couple times, I thought.
Well, they did it twice at the farmhouse. So at the farmhouse, she looked in her dad's eyes and she said,
okay.
She knew her dad had told the truth to the farmer and his wife. Number one, that was just, and then she also knew that the people were coming.
Gotcha.
Anyway, they didn't make it a consistent enough second power.
I got you.
Yeah.
And it would
I agree because I was like, girl, when all them full people came out when you were at that little lake house, I was like, you didn't know?
Yeah.
You didn't know that
it's
they
like
were there?
If she had the power of premonition, then they would have been developing that power alongside her fireball power.
Yeah.
And she didn't know that rain bird was lying.
No.
That's what.
So when she did do premonition type things, they weren't surprised. The dad wasn't surprised, which means that it was something that was there. But y'all weren't
you're right.
So I struggle with that. And also with the dad, they had made it such a believable mind control power. It was so believable. But then when he's getting his powers back, when he outsmarts the shop and he's getting his powers back, he uses his mind to change the channel on the TV. I was like, oh, so now you can control stuff too?
No, he did. He
could have been having cars.
No, he did that. He did something with that before. I can't remember. That wasn't the first time he was telekinetic. He did something else.
He did it at the pay machine. He did
it at the phone machine.
What
That's what I was
thank you. What is it? Payphone. I called it a pay machine.
Yeah.
What is that?
So
I thought that. I guess my general comment is their use of the secondary powers was inconsistent. Mm-hmm. So he got coins out of a phone and he turned channels on a TV. We never saw him do anything that would help them like move a car.
But it may be
he could have like, I don't know. It just felt
but I'm gonna tell you with that one though, I feel like it seemed like it was more taxing on him to do that.
Oh, okay.
I felt like that
he
one
was using it judiciously.
Yeah, so it's like
okay.
You know, and he could do little stuff like I could get some coins, but look how hard he had to. It was standing there for like 30 seconds. It was literally
making his nose bleed.
And it's like I could switch these TV stations a little bit, but you know, so I felt that one was more consistent.
I think that makes me feel a little better about it.
Yeah, but you're right about
it was him being judicious about using the power because it was taking his life force out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that I never noticed that about Charlie though, and that I noticed it, but I didn't think about it in that way.
Yeah, I definitely thought about it when Rainbird was in the tree and she was just walking outside wanting to hold the cans in the box. I was like, girl, you don't feel that?
Oh.
I just wish that if they had even shown us one little blip of the mother and father trying to train her on how to use it. If they had just given us that little bit, it would have been enough for us to know that if it was still inconsistent, it wasn't for lack of them trying to harness it.
Yeah. That's all.
But I have to be honest with you all. That is all I got in terms of what I would do differently. I even had to sit for a while and say to myself, did I find that ending satisfying? Where she goes back to the farm family and back to the farm couple and then ends up being able to complete her father's plan of going to the press. Is that satisfying? And I sat with it and I thought it would not be satisfying in 2023. Because going to the New York Times, what are you doing? You're not really accomplishing much. But at that time, going to the press for it was a completely different time in terms of the role of the media in society. And so I had to sit with it and be like, that was a satisfying ending, you know. So even with some contemplation, this movie gets my fireball. Sis?
Sure. Well, I will absolutely say it does get my fireball. And it gets my fireball because although sometimes you don't like how things can go sometimes, you get an opportunity to feel the vindication with a character. To know that this organization had been controlling her family's lives, took the life of her mother, took the life of her father, and has her with this superpower that she doesn't really want. They've lied to her. They've stolen her. They've tracked her. They have ruined her life. To be able to see her go off at the end, as soon as As soon as she stopped them the crying a little bit, I said audibly, light it up. I was like, light it up, girl. Light
them up, girlfriend.
Burn it down.
People, burn it down. You're doing what so many people want to do when they have been wronged multiple times and they've been trying to keep it together. Yes. They've been trying so hard. And then you're a child. You have literally stolen my life.
Yes.
We're done here.
Yes.
And
can I even tell you, you just made me think of something that I cannot forget. Because after she was all done, she even gave us the 1980s line, "For you, Daddy."
Yes. Yes.
Oh, and I was like, that should be corny to me. But
it was so satisfying. It was.
Listen,
it was.
Watching her light it up as she was crying and then holding the tears back and then letting them flow. I was like, yes, get it all out. Get it all out. I loved every second of it. And then it was almost like the movie was responding to my thought process. Cause I was just like, what is she going to do now? She doesn't have any adults around her, in a situation. I'm thinking like, she can't go to CPS. Like, what's happening here? I was so happy when I saw her go back to the farm family, because again, that farm husband, she knew she was going to be protected.
Yes,
and she knew that they were going to love her.
Yes.
So anyway, I will say I enjoyed this movie. And if I ever was I wouldn't necessarily, because I purchased it to watch it. I probably wouldn't purchase it again. But if it ever comes on television, I will sit and watch it because I enjoyed it. And Drew Barrymore, you're amazing. So, and this was a great
shout out to Drew Barrymore. Y'all, if you just Google list of Drew Barrymore movies, it is so much. It's so much.
She's
contributed so much, So there you have it, folks. Wait, Skylar, fine, you give your review. What did you think?
She didn't like it.
Is it a classic? She's like, one thing is for sure. This diaper I have on is not a classic. Change it, Mom.
We ended perfectly.
I'm happy that she don't have no fireballs. Because she be lighting you up right now.
Well, I think one of the two of you should say our closing statement.
Well, everyone, as you can see, it is a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate you, audience. I love you, bro and sis. Everybody have a good day.